Hi, everyone. I'm David Smith, and I run Inthrive Advocacy Solutions, your solution for lobbying and advocacy. Before launching this firm, I was leading advocates in Virginia, and we brought real change to our criminal justice system. And I worked for Delegate Kay Corey, where I ran her commerce and energy docket. Now, I'm bringing what I've learned through mentors and hard knocks to you. Welcome to Better Advocacy in 10 minutes or less. Oh, I like that one. A series of videos helping you become a better advocate so you can turn your passion into policy. Today, we're going to talk about working with patrons. Now, what is a patron? If you remember from last week's video, this is not a patron, but a patron. So patrons, those are the legislators that will submit your bill for drafting, present your bill at hearings, and negotiate with other legislators and administration officials to make changes to the bill to get it passed and signed. So, how do you work with your patron? Let me tell you what it's like as a legislative staffer, because we've all dealt with ideal and less than ideal advocates. So, who are those ideal advocates? They're the ones that have a clear idea of their perfect bill as well as their fallback positions. You understand what you want and can articulate it as an advocate. You as the advocate also understand that politics is a process, and you may not get every ask, so you have fallback positions and also know what you won't accept. The ideal advocate also has talking points, hard data, media points, experts, and impacted individuals. Hey, do you remember that picture from a previous training? Maybe. You have all of these so that you can help your elected officials, because they usually have what's called a bill binder. Sometimes they are as scary as those right there, either virtual or hard copy, where they keep notes on the bills they've introduced. If you already have all this information, you'll make your patron that much more prepared, and you'll be that much more likely to get your bill passed. They also need people to back them up in committee hearings. Your patron will talk first, but you want to have people prepared to speak. You want impacted folks that can talk about the bill. Remember that two-step method we've been talking about? And you also want experts who can answer any technical questions. Sometimes these will be the same person, but not always. You also want to communicate timely and respectfully. So what do I mean by this? Timely means you want to make sure that decisions are communicated quickly from your organization or your coalition to that patron, so the patron knows where you stand. This is especially important once session gets started and there are a lot of negotiations going on. This also means that when the elected official reaches out, you want to respond as soon as possible. If you can't give an answer, don't make something up and don't ignore the communication. Reach out, return that call or that email, and set the expectation for when you can get something to them. And see if that's workable, then follow through. But what about respectfully? Communicate respectfully. See, the ideal advocates don't buy into the partisan hype, and they always communicate respectfully in emails and phone calls. You don't call anyone names. You don't put down other legislators or staffers, even if they are on the opposite end of the ideological spectrum of your patron. Because you know what? Some of those folks are still friends, despite what Fox News and MSNBC would want us to think. Now, if your patron seems to slight you, this is another time where you can act respectfully, because ideal advocates always take everything in the best light. The ideal advocate understands that folks are busy, and the legislators have lots of bills and a small staff. If you don't hear back right away from your patron, don't send an angry email. Send friendly reminders. And if they don't advocate in public for everything you want, don't call them out in public. Reach out privately and find out what's going on. You don't want to burn those bridges, remember. Next, that ideal advocate is willing to stand up to their patron and persuade their patron when that politician loses their way. Ideal advocates understand that being respectful isn't the same thing as being submissive. They're willing to stand up in a respectful way, even to an angry legislator when they know they're right. All right, let's recap all this. So, what's the ideal advocate? The ideal advocate has a clear idea of what you want to communicate and what you won't accept. You have resources ready for that patron so that you are going to be able to make your patron the strongest patron possible for you. You're going to communicate timely and respectfully, no matter how ticked off you might get. But still, you're willing to stand up to your patron. All right. But what about those less than ideal advocates? We know what we should do, but what are some of those pitfalls that we sometimes find ourselves falling into as advocates? So, the less than ideal advocate might ghost the legislator's office. Let me tell you, it is so frustrating when you're trying to help get an advocate's bill passed and they won't return your calls or emails. So even if you can't get a response now, you can at least reply to your patron's office and tell them when you'll be able to get an answer to their question. You know, last year we were working on getting some last minute bills filed. And these weren't priority bills for my legislator, but they were ones that she was willing to support for a constituent. However, we needed a few details before we were comfortable with submitting it. We emailed the advocate, nothing. We called the advocate, nothing. A couple of days passed, and so did the bill filing deadline. When you don't communicate with a legislator, when things like this happen, that legislator will think twice before agreeing to introduce your bill again. The less than ideal advocate also doesn't say what other legislators they've been working with. See, when you're on a legislative team working to get a bill passed, you need to know who else is working with you. I've seen multiple legislators introduce identical bills. It's only after the bills go public do they realize that those advocates were talking to multiple legislators. Now, you have the politically fraught situation of whose bill takes precedent and who will be the lead patron. You know, it's really easy to get hurt egos. If you're working with multiple delegates or senators, you need to let them all know everyone you're talking to. It's a professional courtesy, and it will save them from some nasty surprises. Next, less than ideal advocates aren't truthful about why a bill is important. Yes, lies. I didn't believe this until I saw it with my own eyes. My delegate's office was working on a child safety bill. The advocate that had brought it to us said their local prosecutor told them that the law was needed, that this law needed to be changed. We started doing research and we're getting news reports, but when we were looking into the legal side of things, we couldn't find anything to support what they were saying. So we called the prosecutor. You know what that prosecutor said? She said everything was fine with the law, and she hadn't even heard of the family we were working with. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they out and out lied to us. Even if it's a small lie, don't do it. Your reputation as an advocate is your most important thing you bring to the table. And if those legislators don't think they can trust you anymore, they're not going to listen to you. All right, so let's review this now, but put it in a different way. First, don't ghost your patron. Next, yes, always communicate. And finally, don't tell a lie. All right. So if you've had a patron in the past, take a moment to reflect on how you interacted with them. What worked well and what didn't. You can even reach out to the patron or their aide for direct feedback. Legislators and their staff value good advocates. In fact, the idea for this whole video series came from a staffer. If you earn the reputation As an advocate that works well with patrons, you'll find more legislators willing to not only take your calls, but also patron your bills. Thank you so much for watching this short training video on working with patrons. Like and subscribe to the Inthrive Advocacy channel to get notifications on new videos. And be sure to check back every Friday for a new Better Advocacy in 10 minutes or less video. Ooh, I like that one. All right, y'all, have a great week.